Welcome to the Kissing Spine podcast. How nice of you to join. In this podcast, I discuss several topics around kissing spine, like what kissing spine is, the different medical treatments, the function of different body parts, functional and dysfunctional training techniques, saddle fit, and a whole lot more. All put together to help you support your horse with the kissing spine. I wish you a lot of fun listening, and if you like this podcast, make sure to become a subscriber so you won't miss any of my episodes. Hi there, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Kissing Spine podcast. And in this podcast, I am going to discuss with you what the symptoms are of kissing spines. That you're here means that you might suspect that your horse has a kissing spine, or maybe you just got the diagnosis, or maybe you already had it some time ago. In any case, it's really important to understand that per horse it differs a lot how they show their symptoms. You have to think that, these horses, some are just constantly under pressure when it comes to race horses, but also quarter horses. These are horses that are started quite young and they need to perform on a relatively high level at a young age. And there's quite a bit of pressure on them. So some of these horses might just work through the pain and show no symptoms except that they're emotionally shut down. There are also other horses that are really in touch with their feelings, or they just have more space to be who they are and show the issues that they're having, and these horses might show a whole lot more symptoms. We also see horses with x-rays that show mild kissing spine, not too severe. And these horses show no symptoms at all and are perfectly happy horses. So a horse can have kissing spine and not be too bothered with it just yet. Or a horse has a very mild kissing spine and be really symptomatic. So there's not one, there's not one real thing to look out for. Like if your horse is doing this, then you know for sure that your horse has a kissing spine. Overall, we see that the horses that show symptoms always show like vague symptoms, and they are usually combined, so it's not just one thing, it's more often a couple of things all together. So let's take a look at what these symptoms are that could indicate that your horse has at least some back issues, but could indicate to a kissing spine. It's definitely symptoms that we see a lot with horses that are already diagnosed. So I'm going from light to worse or most intense symptom, and I would like to start with a general irritability when moving. So, these horses are a little less willing to move. When you ask them to move, they're like, do I have to? Or, they may even get a little bit angry with you. Maybe if you want to ride them, they're like not willing. But usually you already see this like moving in hand. If you walk them from one place to another, they may look ugly at other horses. When they're being chased or try to be chased in a paddock, they really show discomfort because of it. Well, this is what we mean. Like, it's really clear this horse is indicating that something is going on. The symptom by itself does not mean that your horse has a kissing spine, but it is a showing that your horse is really not feeling that comfortable and you need to take a look at it. So when you brush a horse with a kissing spine and that's really sensitive over the back, when you palpate, the horse is really in pain or really uncomfortable. They're really if you really brush them, they're pressing down their backs. They want to get away from it. They want to get away from the pressure, and they're not really liking to be groomed. They accept it, but they're not too happy about it. Another thing that shows pain and discomfort is weight loss. So if the horse stops to eat, maybe you recognize this for yourself. If you're in a lot of pain, I know I have that I don't really feel like eating. So if you notice that your horse is losing weight and you had the dentist over, it's at least a sign that there's something going on with your horse. And then, you really need to stay alert on what's going on, and if you're starting to get worried, it's really time to start calling a vet, but you might not want to wait too long. So then something that we see a lot is discomfort with saddling or doing up the girth. Well, and the thing is with the saddling discomfort, it could also indicate that your saddle is simply not fitting. So if you're coming on with your pad and you want to throw on your pad and your horse is already moving the head up, like maybe by a couple of centimeters, like with an inch, that the horse is like bracing itself a little bit, that's already a sign that a lot of people miss that, there's something going on over there. So when you throw on the saddle and putting on the girth, it's just more likely that this horse is going to show that they're not too happy about it. But, in worst cases, they will start biting, or they will really try to chase you off a little bit with the saddler. It's really clear that they're not happy with you saddling them. It could also be that the training is not at a level that fits the horse, and the saddle is an indication he's going to be ridden. So, the symptom by itself is not necessarily a kissing spine symptom, but the showing of discomfort is a symptom that you need to be aware of, that something is going on with your horse. Then another thing that we see, which is very common, is some vague hind leg lameness. And the thing is with hind leg lameness is it's not that the horse is thick somewhere or the leg is warm somewhere, and the most difficult thing is that it might be the one day and it might be the other day the other leg. So it switches from the one leg to the other, or maybe it's the same leg, but it's really hard to pinpoint where it's coming from. This hind leg lameness, which is a little bit vague usually, it's really not clear where it's coming from. This is a more clearer kissing spine symptom. And why? In a previous episode, I explained what kissing spine is, and that the nerves are going through the spinal column all the way to the backside of the horse. And the nerves are the wires that connects the supercomputer to the rest of the body. If the spinal column is not really aligned in the right way, these nerves can get a little bit stuck. We call it nerve impingement. And if the nerves are getting stuck, then the wires are not fully connecting the head to the hind side of the horse. And if it's not fully connected, this can cause lameness, or even it might feel as if a leg just stops being used. It just falls out. Buddha really had this hind leg lameness and nerve impingement. So when she would move and hollow herself up too much, the hind leg would just stop moving all of a sudden. She would collapse a little bit. So that's the very severe part, but it starts with some vague hind leg lameness. Maybe you'll notice that one stride is bigger than the other, or maybe, there's something wrong with the movement and you cannot really pin it down. That is a symptom that you need to look out for. Then, while being ridden, but also in the groundwork and in the lunging, if the horse is reluctant to stretch the neck down and out and round the back up, you will notice that these horses, when grazing, they're not having too much trouble because they have a really good incentive to put the head down. But horses with back problems that can graze, you will notice that they will spread out the front legs a little bit more, so they don't have to round the back too much. So they will not really lift the chest and then drop the neck and the head and neck, but they will lean on the forehand and really spread their front legs so they can get to the ground without rounding themselves up too much. And you also see this in the work that you're doing with them. So they will keep their head up. They will really like push on their under neck. So you see that that's a little bit more bulky, and the top line is not really developed. They're not really willing to do lateral work because that would help them round up, and they're not really willing to do so. Which is not weird, because if you have back problems, you don't want to have too much pressure on it. And if you have back problems and a saddle that's not fitting too much, then you really want to stay away from that pressure because it's uncomfortable. But if you're having back pain and the bones are hurting, then what tends to happen that they start contracting the back muscles to stabilize it, which is creating pretty much the opposite of what you would want with a kissing spine horse, because what you want is for them to relax at the upline so the vertebrae can come apart again. But this is really hard for them because they're in pain. So, it's a downward circle that you need to break. So another thing that we see, if you're able to ride them a little bit, is a cross cantering or difficulty maintaining the canter. And this comes from the same issue as the vague hind leg lameness, because they need the control from the nerves to do the canter work. And if they don't have strength in the hind end, and if they don't really have a good connection with the hind end, it's really hard for a horse to canter. Apuda was in such a bad situation that she couldn't even canter out in the field by herself, let alone in the ridden work. In the ridden work, I couldn't get her to canter. But even in the field and out in pasture, if she would canter off, she would always hop and bop and cross canter. And it really took quite some time for her to regain the strength and the stability to do canter work. She can now, but she really was in a bad situation where she couldn't do any kind of work, not even out in the field. She couldn't canter at all. So the last symptom that we have, which is the most severe one, is if the horse is in so much pain that the only thing that he can do is pretty much go full Bronco style. Like, it starts with fleeing away and jumping off for no reason. So all of a sudden, your horse will just bolt off and start running and throw the head up in the air and seems out of control, but for no reason whatsoever. And that can go from just bolting off to really trying to get you off, because the horse is in so much pain that the only thing that he wants is to get rid of the pain and getting rid of the weight on his back. Because let's face it, if you go sit on a horse with a dropped spine where the dorsals are touching each other, that's already really uncomfortable for the horse. But if you go sit on top of it, then gravity is going to start doing its job by pushing the spine even more down, which puts more pressure on that spine, which is really, really uncomfortable for the horse. So while a horse seems really unwilling to work and be completely crazy, this is what I thought of Pura in the beginning. Like, that horse is insane and dangerous, and, what's going on? And you have no reason to behave like this. Well, she really had a reason to behave like that. So let's name them again. General irritability when moving, pain when palpating or brushing the back, weight loss, discomfort when saddling or doing up the girth, vague but hind leg lameness, unwilling to stretch the neck and round the back, cross cantering or difficulty maintaining the canter, or bucking under saddle, like going from fleeing to full Bronco style. Again, these are the symptoms that kissing spine horses show when they show symptoms. But it's not just one symptom that you need to look out for. It's a combination of these symptoms that should raise your attention. So if you have some vague hind leg lameness, irritability, and discomfort when saddling, this is an alert signal. If you have pain with brushing and cross cantering, then you need to pay attention. If your horse is going full bronco style, well, if nothing is going on, a horse in general, like if it's scared, it will do a little bit of a jump and then turn around curiously to see what's going on. But if the horse is in pain, then they sort of black out. And you have to remember that when a horse would be attacked in the wild, look how a lion catches a zebra. They will jump on the back side. So pain on the back would be like the claws of the lion going into the animal. And the same goes with bears, like these are most natural, well, bears maybe not so much, but lions, tigers, jaguars, that kind of creatures are more likely to be the natural enemy of the horse. So like an attack on the back would be a lion throwing in his nails. And that means I need to get out of here right now. It's just an instinctive thing to start running if something's going on in the back because it's so sensitive. So if a horse is really trying to get you off, it's not out of meanness in general. It's just your horse is really giving a signal that something is going on and he's uncomfortable. Maybe the saddle, like that saddle fit is a huge problem that causes horses to bolt and jump and go full bronco. But pain inside the back, well, can you have any more good reason to go a little bit crazy if you want to get rid of the pain? So these are the symptoms. Again, you really need to look at a combination of these symptoms, not so much one symptom. But the danger with this is that it's also symptoms for other problems, like EPM, wobblers, hindgut ulcers, ovarian cyst, West Nile virus, Lyme disease. These are all diseases that can show similar symptoms. So when you feel that your horse is showing these symptoms and you're getting your vet out, make sure that they don't just look at the kissing spine and get you really expensive back race, but also check whether they can test for all these other problems that could cause these symptoms. Also, make sure that your saddle is fitting. So if your horse is showing symptoms that are not too severe, then get your saddle checked first and foremost. I can really recommend Saddle Fit for Life fitters because they so broadly measure the horse and really learn how to look at the horse, but also how the horse is going to develop over time. And it's really easy to check your saddle yourself with the basic principles that they're using. So if you're getting a fitter out, I can really recommend a Saddle Fit for Life fitter. They're all over the world, so you can just Google them and I'm sure you will find someone relatively near to you. If the saddle is not the problem, it's time to get the vet out and go through the whole meal of checking whether kissing spine is the cause of your horse's problems. I understand that going down this rabbit hole seems very scary. I mean, if you're aware that these symptoms are here, if you're feeling that your horse might have a kissing spine, then you're already at such a place that it's very likely that your horse already has some problems. Don't be afraid of the journey ahead of you. If you start Googling about rehabilitation from a horse with kissing spine, then you will hear a lot of scary stories and a lot of old-fashioned people would say that these horses cannot recover anymore. But you have to remember that especially professionals that work with quarter horses and thoroughbreds, which are breeds that up till now show most cases of kissing spine, these horses are being trained very young under very high pressure, and if they have a kissing spine and they're never performing well, these horses don't make money anymore. So if you have someone working in that profession saying that a horse with a kissing spine is just not worth investing your time in, keep these checks with yourself in mind. Like, is this person someone that who works with horses professionally, are they connected to the reining, or are they connected to racing, or at least where young horses need to perform very highly at a young age in order to make money, then you can take this with a little grain of salt. Unless you have the ambition to go to the European Championships or the World Championships or the USA Championships, then maybe, you need to either get your wishes in check with your horse, or maybe this horse will not be the best option for you. But that's all very much into the future. These are the kissing spine symptoms. So if you think that yours might have kissing spine, check whether these symptoms are there. And if yes, it might be time to contact your vet and see what's going on. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you will be there for the next episode. I would like to thank you again for listening to this podcast. If you think that this podcast is interesting to someone else, please share it on social media so others can find it too. This way we can create more awareness about what the options are with a kissing spine horse.